not people watch, but the soundtrack is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But go to John Hughes even. John Hughes, tell me what you think what he did with soundtrack work.
Cameron Crowe.
Cameron Crowe.
That's true.
Yeah. I think, but everyone had the Pulp Fiction soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like, that was huge.
And he also used, I mean, he's still one of the few directors that really will base entire scenes around a pop song. I mean, Inglourious Basterds had that entire David Bowie song at the climax of the film. It was based around it, so.
Definitely.
I was thinking, actually, when you were talking about that in Tarantino, I was thinking of Scott Pilgrim, and just how weird, like, that fused every single media outlet that I could think of together, because it was about a band, so they had songs, they came out with the soundtrack, people bought the soundtrack because they loved the music from the movie. The movie was based on video games, they had a video game for the movie, so it was
and
just...
and
it was based on a comic.
And the band that did the music for the video game does well, too.
Yeah,
not
so
even in the movie, I don't think.
I think the great thing about that, the licensing thing, is that it is regulated in a way that, like, I mean, we have a local filmmaker showcase, and if you guys have a short film to submit, you should do a little plug there, but, you know, we are super strict about, you know, we can't have a song in there that isn't licensed to the filmmaker, even though it's this, you know, little local thing that's only playing in Omaha. We're really particular about that. So, and I think everybody is, because you have to be. You can get sued, and it costs a lot.
Yeah.
Lawsuits cost money. Charlie, I kind of want to go to your kind of area for a second here. Why do we think we should look at things like movie posters and anime and these kind of things, and comic books? Typically, don't look at those as mainstays of media.
Right.
Are they becoming more prevalent? Do you see them becoming more of a, you know, something that we should be paying attention to? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, for comics, the best thing I can say is what movies are coming out this summer. We have Thor, Captain America, Green Lantern is coming out. What was that? Transformers 3.
Is there another X-Men?
Yes, X-Men Origins. But when you look at what films, I think in the top 20, at least half of the top 20 are all superhero-based, comic-based movies. So I think there's definitely the money side of things, so that's why it's important. But I don't know if people are reading comics the same way that they were reading them maybe in the 70s or 80s, but they're reading a lot of them online now, so comics are becoming a big business online. Best example I can give is Penny Arcade, which is this video game-based comic that started out 10 or 11 years ago, and it was just them kind of messing around when the internet was just getting started, and now they have conventions that sell out on either side of the coast every year, and they work, they have a charity that raises hundreds of thousands of dollars for kids. So, I mean, just from a webcomic, it came to that. So I think how people are spending their money, how people are choosing what to look at, it all becomes very important. And then as far as anime, and I mean, I think it works the same way with the foreign films. I mean, the importance of foreign films is it's something you don't see or hear about all that often, and so because they're not going to be marketed like a blockbuster would, but it's still a voice that needs to be heard every once in a while, and anime is one of those things. It's culturally important to Japan, and it's not just Japan. It's Persepolis was a huge, really important movie. The fact that I'm going back to Japan again, but Spirited Away won the animated Oscar. So it's quality stuff that isn't going to be pushed the same way that a Transformers or Johnny Depp movie would be. So I think it's important to...
As long as Johnny Depp sponsored by Disney.
Yeah. Yeah. Or because they did Johnny Depp's going the whole kids route because he did Rango with Nickelodeon. Yeah. So kind of a far cry from Edward Scissorhands.
Any questions from the class really quick? I know we've got a couple more that are popping up on the screen here. All right, one question I just got. Where does Omaha fit in all this? Well, I mean, it seems to me, I remember getting off the plane when I interviewed for a job here, it was one of those, whoa, I didn't realize there was a city down here. It literally, that was the thought that went through my head. And as I was able to get a tour through town, it was one of those, okay, there's something going on here. And I quickly realized it was kind of this independent local music scene, art scene, film scene that's been going on. Where do we sit? Where does Omaha sit within this kind of conversation?
Well, from my perspective, like just living in New York between 2000 and 2005, the perception changed so drastically. Like it went from Omaha, people would like laugh and they would ask if I grew up on a farm and stuff like that, to like they would reference Cotter Oberst, or they would, I think Saddle Creek had a lot to do with people recognizing that there is some sort of cultural scene here. So it kind of started with the indie rock stuff. But man, the Bemis Center for Contemporary Arts is amazing. That's an international residency program. If you guys haven't been down there, you can check out the openings, and they're free and they're super fun. And they have residents from all over the world. It's one of the most acclaimed, important residency programs. I'm super excited because we now have like national support. We just got a grant from the Academy yesterday, so we're going to be one of a couple dozen organizations that has money from the Oscars. So I'm super psyched about that. And so so it's special to have a nonprofit independent movie theater. I know that's a little, but there's just so much going on. The Omaha Performing Arts is absolutely incredible, and there's so much philanthropy for the arts here. I feel like we have a really, really vibrant scene, and it's changed a lot since I graduated from Central in '96, and it's changed a ton since then.
Yeah, I think a lot of people dog on the city unfairly, even within the city, and until you get an outside perspective, you don't really realize that we do have quite a bit going on. In fact, I would argue that you almost, there's, you go to a place like New York, or you go to a place like Chicago, you go to a place like LA, you can get more, but I don't think you get that different, you know what I mean? Like, there's just more options within the options that you have, take your theater, for example. When you guys came in, it started to give us that cinema art house stuff that we didn't really have here before. And so, yes, we only have 2 screens, but we have it, And so if you like it, there's a place to go do it. And that's kind of the way I've always felt about Omaha. And it's definitely growing in that respect, but I don't like apologizing for it. I really like Omaha quite a bit, and I think that, being centrally located is also kind of awesome because it gives us an opportunity to hear about things from both sides of it. I do feel like there's an objectivity that comes with not being on one of the coasts, especially when we're talking about reviewing or looking at it critically or something like that. You hear about East Coast, West Coast bias. You don't hear a lot about a Midwest bias, And so, I don't know. I really am proud of what the city's put together, and I do think it keeps going forward. And I think that's a lot because of Saddle Creek, because of film streams. I think both of those are very important.
I guess I'll go from a UNO perspective. There, not only in Omaha, but there's so much stuff going on campus that I wasn't aware of until I took the job that I have. There's a graphic arts design program that works through us and I believe through Metro. But some of the stuff that they produce for a class is absolutely phenomenal and blows me away every time I go and look at it. The UNO theater department has put lights out, just amazing shows the past 2 seasons. And then a lot of the people go on to work for local theaters. So Blue Barn, Omaha Community Playhouse, I'm trying to think of some other local theaters. Those are the 2 ones that pop in my head. But they do the Shakespeare on the Green every year. There's at least 2 or 3 people that are students who do Shakespeare on the Green. And that's a big community thing. Music. There are people on campus, there are musicians on campus that work with world-renowned musicians, and world-renowned musicians come in here to play with them. So I think just from a UNO point of view, there's so much going on that a lot of people don't know about. And so I think it's really vibrant, and there's just so much to see.
Musically, kind of like what Rachel was saying, I think, until 10 or 15 years ago, people just didn't think of Omaha as anything culturally. They thought of Omaha steaks and Warren Buffett or things like that. And like the artists on Saddle Creek and a few other things that are outside of Saddle Creek have, I think, built a reputation for Omaha as a place where culture comes from and people appreciate culture, and that's been reflected in her being able to have a theater like Film Streams in the city, or the music venues that have been built, Slow Down, which Saddle Creek built, the Waiting Room, and a handful of others, and they have shows nearly every night of the week. That's something that 10 years ago just wouldn't be imaginable, and just the level of artists that the city's able to attract now has gone up significantly.